Today on Dice to Pixels, between a broken back, having my tooth pulled, and missing the past few episodes, Adrian and Sarah have actually talked about replacing me with AI.
Yeah, we have. It's working. That was AI, by the way.
This is AI. Chad
isn't. Yeah, Chad isn't here.
AI Chad is now here.
Has better vision.
Glasses engaged.
Welcome back, Chad.
Yes.
Tooth is healed-ish.
Yeah, not as annoyed.
Yeah.
Your face isn't as swollen. You don't look like half of The Godfather.
Oh, it's so horrible.
Yeah. Fucking wisdom teeth. I am so glad my middle brother and I both, we don't have wisdom teeth, which is like
Really?
super nice.
I had all 4 of them pulled at the same time.
Yeah.
That was fun chewing when they were like all my gums were still sensitive.
Yeah. Fun is one word for that.
It was like bite, ow.
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah, my brother John and I are a little bit weird because both of us...
A little bit.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
In specific ways. Both of us have no wisdom teeth and both of us still have our tonsils.
I still have my tonsils.
I still have mine too.
Tonsils is less rare, but...
Never had an issue with my wisdom teeth until one of them broke and then
Yeah.
had to get the damn thing pulled. But yeah, it sucks.
So anyways, we're actually going to talk about AI today. So, Chad, you want to give us a quick synopsis of this SAG-AFTRA?
Yeah. So there was a groundbreaking new deal reached between the SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, or the Voice Actors Guild.
Yeah.
And a tech company called Replica Studios, which basically will allow the tech company to create AI copies of voice actors' voices to use in the production of video games or multimedia. And a number of members of the SAG-AFTRA group are naturally a little pissed off about it because it was claimed that they were all consulted about it, when in fact it turns out, no, they actually weren't.
Yeah. Shocking that a union leadership would do something without consulting the actual constituents.
What?
That's never happened in the history of the world.
No.
Yeah. So just to elaborate on what Chad said, to be clear, what this is laying the groundwork for creating contracts for this. This is not saying like, oh, any voice actor can just have their voice replicated. This is like, if you would like to do that, here's the generic terms and conditions, and then like it goes from there.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there are additional contracts on top of that need to be negotiated, but this is like you definitely can't do X. If you want to do Y, talk to the person, but like, no, you can't do X, Y. Like this is the ground level stuff.
So like boring quotes incoming. The deal with the tech company will enable Replica to engage SAG-AFTRA members under a fair, ethical agreement to safely create and license a digital replica of their voice. Licensed voices can be used in video game development and other interactive media projects from pre-production to final release. The deal reportedly has a built-in safety nets for actors, like consent requirements and negotiation options, and the ability to opt out of future use of the digitized version of their voices. End quote.
Yeah, and so that's where you get like the additional level of I don't know that it would be counted as like a different contract or anything, but they get to decide whether they want to do this or not. So so this seems like a bit of a win for most like accomplished voice actors. I don't know. I'm not in their shoes. Maybe they're allowed to be pissed about. Well, they're definitely allowed to be pissed about this. In theory, this means that you can have like Morgan Freeman narrate your game, and Morgan Freeman doesn't have to do any work, but he'll get money in the mail, which seems like a win. This seems like a win.
Yeah.
But we were talking a little bit earlier about the fact that this probably sucks more for people who aren't well established, who are just getting into the field. They're going to get squeezed more by this because they aren't the ones, the new guy or girl who's been doing this for a year is not the one that they're going to replicate their voice. They're going to do other people.
Unless they do get them. And then for NPCs.
Yes.
They'll get royalty. Oh my gosh. I give up.
Speech impediments.
Royal Matisse.
Royal Matisse.
Yeah.
Yes. Just the same. It will just be not as much. Not nearly as much.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about Nvidia ACE and other AI, like pure AI voiceover stuff. So we'll go back and forth a little bit on that, but this is not that. This is recreating somebody's voice who already exists and has already done work and everything else. So a lot of people have taken to Twitter, and like, I'm outraged about this. And it's always hard to tell if they actually are outraged about it or whether they haven't actually read it.
I think it's
probably some of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skewing a little bit more towards headline only reading.
I suspect likely that tends to be the way with this. Because certainly some of the reactions that I read, they look like they're pissed off because they think that this is just, people can just steal their voice. And it's like, that's not what this is. AI voices in general, sure, but that's not what this is.
Mm-hmm.
This is, if you want to allow somebody to use your voice, you can do it without leaving the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. I think they're equating it to deep fakes.
Yeah.
And it's not. Like, there's always going to be deep fakes.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You can't prevent people from doing that, but this is to ensure that the performers that have made contributions to things are actually getting paid for their voices
and have control over it.
Exactly.
Right. Like this is the exact opposite of like the shady stealing somebody's voice to put in your video game. This is literally the opposite of that. This is with consent, with royalties, I understand where people new to the game especially would be much more hesitant about this, but it seems like this is purely a good thing in terms of, if AI voice acting is going to happen, which it is, at least this way they can get a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
Right?
And to be fair, a lot of the outrage has more been to the fact that SAG-AFTRA has said that they've approached and it's been approved by their affected members of their union, when in fact, like, a lot of big name voice actors have come out and said, like, no, I was never told about this at all.
Yeah,
if anything, it was probably like some line in an email where, they were notified, but the notification and the decision and signatures on this contract or whatever probably happened very close together. So people didn't register and weren't able to get their opinions in.
And look, at the end of the day, all of the lawyers that are employed by the union were very well aware of this and involved. And those really are the only stakeholders that they care about. It doesn't shock me at all. They have every right to be pissed about that. Don't get me wrong.
100%.
But I mean, at this point, they kind of should expect that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want.
Yeah. But at least it's not like the scummy thing where it's like, wow, we're just gonna make this this character sound like Steve Bloom, and and that way we don't have to pay him. It's like, no, they're not doing that shit.
No. This, I mean, I haven't read through it, and I will give it a read at some point. But like, on the surface, this all looks very much like, we know people are it. There's two sort of competing issues here. There's people are going to use AI for voice acting in video games because of course they are. It's fucking expensive to hire somebody to do it. Yep. And then on the other hand, these people want to do this. They want to voice act. They want the money. They want to do the job that they love doing. And so this is like, it's the best of both worlds. I mean, in so far as lots of people consider the entire thing of AI voicing being a shit world to begin with, this is allowing them to still be part of that industry and allowing game manufacturers to not spend millions of dollars, because they're not going to, right? If you have the option of using something like Nvidia ACE, which we'll get into in just a second, for $20 to narrate your entire game versus, $2 million. I actually don't know what high class voice actors get paid, but I assume it's a chunk of change. What are studios going to go with? Yeah. They're obviously going to go the cheap route.
And inevitably there's always going to be studios and people that still want the actual people behind the mic versus using AI. So
Mhm.
Yeah. So one of the things that we had talked about briefly, I had said I do think if I was a voice actor right now, which I am definitely not, but if you are a voice actor, I would be talking to some game studios and seeing if you can get a spot on staff to be their in-house voice actor, because I think what will happen is studios will start seeing the need to have a voice actor to corral the AI. Because it's very hard for somebody who isn't a voice actor to refine an AI voice. Like any asshole can go and get a generic male narrator or a female narrator on the internet. It takes 30 seconds and you can just have them read your script. It literally takes no time at all. Hell, your iPhone can do it. It's not, it's not a big deal. But getting one that fits the character, fits the role, fits the environment of the game, potentially having like that person probably has slightly different voices depending on the situation too.
Yeah.
So like doing all of that is going to require someone who actually knows what they're doing. Even if it's AI doing the voice, it's still going to require somebody that knows what the fuck is going on to get there.
Do you have any idea if AI is clever enough to add inflection to?
So it will add inflection for sure. Like it's good enough that it will add pauses and inflections, and it'll even do like ums and ahs if you want it to.
Yep.
But the AI, at least what I've seen of it, isn't going to understand that, hey, you know, if somebody in this scene was just running, they should sound a little out of breath.
Yeah.
The art directors may catch that sort of thing, but you know who will is a fucking voice actor. They'll catch that shit. They know this. That's their craft. So even if AI can do the voice, it's going to sound very robotic, even if the voice is great. Like if a voice can sound perfectly like a human reading some text, but you put that in a video game where they're supposed to be like moving around or whatever, and it's not going to sound right.
It's going to have something missing to it.
100%. And that can probably be filled in, but you need somebody who knows what they're doing in order to fill that in. Because otherwise, I wouldn't know how to instruct an AI. Like it would take me a year to figure out how to instruct an AI to like give me the right vocalizations in a combat scene.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's not my world. Whereas a voice actor, A, could just do it quickly themselves. And B, would probably be able to coax that out of an AI much quicker than I could. So
Yeah. I mean, you look at a guy like Frank Welker, who's probably, I would say he's like the man when it comes to voice acting. Like him, Mel Blanc, like just guys that have incredible, like if you looked up Frank Welker and you've seen like all the different voices he's done in like cartoons alone.
Yep.
You look at like how Dr. Claw from the Inspector Gadget cartoon of the late 80s, early 90s. You never see his face, you just see his hand, and he's always petting his cat. But he had this like really dark gravelly voice that, you know, and Frank Welker. And then he, you know, from that to like Megatron. In the 80s, you know, where he sounded a little older and he had that kind of voice to it. But then with Galvatron, where he added a bit of this to the voice, and then, you know, like he
wasn't he Soundwave too?
Well, Soundwave, all Soundwave was the Dr. Claw voice, but then they put it through like a flanger.
Yeah.
And so it would like, it would always
modulate.
be, you know, like
Laserbeak eject operation.
You know,
Yeah.
But it was really, really cool. Like the man's insanely talented.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, with that, like a lot of voice actors out there, I mean, there's so many. You look at the Critical Role cast, like they're all like insanely talented voice actors.
Yep.
And
90%. Well, okay, no, that's not fair. There's a huge amount of vocal training and everything else, and flexibility, and you know.
Enunciation.
Yeah, there's like physical speech patterns that go into this. I'm not trying to trivialize that, but assuming you've nailed those things, 90% of the remainder of voice acting is fitting the voice to the situation, to the character,
scene,
to the whatever.
Yeah, like even if you go back to animation again, like with Futurama with Bender, I saw somewhere just how that voice was was developed, where it was taken in consideration, like it was an older robot
Mhm.
and he's drunk all the time.
Yep.
So like, yeah, you add all of those pieces together,
Yep.
where I imagine eventually they'll be able to instruct AI to do that sort of thing, but it's not going to be very soon.
I mean, it's a matter of training, right? At some point, AI will just be able to watch your scenes and give you the right voice. And you know what? We might even be closer to that than I think we are. I don't know what the cutting edge is with this stuff, but at the end of the day, where the gap will be is I might listen to an AI voiceover and say like, yeah, that sounds great. But a lot of other people will look at it and they're like, that's not right.
Yeah.
There's something missing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not knowledgeable enough to vet that it actually looks right. Or it sounds right. Whereas like a voice actor, they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, no, that's stupid. Same thing like when I develop mobile apps. Something will look fine to me, but I'll show it to a designer and they'll be like, no, that's like, you've got all of this needs to move around. And I'll spend a day moving shit around by a few pixels here and there and changing colors slightly here and there. And at the end, it looks way better. But like, I never would have been able to I would never have known what the problem was to fix. Same thing, I think, will be the case with voice acting. Like AI, if you know what to tell it, it can probably generate exactly what you need, but you still need somebody who knows what you need.
Yeah.
And
like a battered, brutal, and beaten soldier leaning up against the wall that you run to at a level, and you have like an interaction with them. Okay, so they're battered, broken, and they're beaten. But I mean, it could be one of the, whereas a voice actor would be like, they went that way, and like actually play it up. And I'm not saying AI probably can't, but I'd imagine like in an early, it's like, yeah, they went that way.
Well, yeah, like can the AI reproduce that? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Does it know to reproduce that? Probably not.
Yeah.
And also the guy coming to talk to them, or girl or whatever, there's probably concern in their voice.
Yep.
Is the AI going to know that? I'm guessing no. So like all of this to say, A, we're a ways out before I think AI is truly going to replace anyone. And B, even when it does start to truly replace some of this stuff, I don't actually think it's going to really replace that many. I think that to some degree, voice acting, there will still be iconic people who are just so fucking good at it that they're better than the AI anyways. And then I think there's going to be a lot of things where it's like you're a consultant more than save your voice, but bring all of your talent and your knowledge to the situation so that you can corral the AI and get it right.
Speaking of save your voice, like that's like what I was talking about earlier, is probably the best benefit that they're going to get is they're not going to have to scream or die several times and scream their voices raw at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think and another good before we get into the whole like ACE thing, another good thing about this too is that like those iconic voices, those iconic character voices, like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader. Yeah. And we've had a few instances in the video games where there is a fella, and I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he does a really good Darth Vader voice. I look at Optimus Prime. Like, Peter Cullen to me is the voice of Optimus Prime. I know there's been other voice actors, like Gary Chalk has voiced Optimus Prime, and Neil Kaplan or something has voiced him. But like Peter Cullen is the voice of Optimus Prime. Yep. So for something like this, and not in a scummy way where they just do it, but like if there's consent from like Peter Cullen in like 20 years, and God forbid, like we don't have Peter Cullen in this world anymore. Yep. It's a good way to like preserve that iconic voice.
Yep. Yeah, and it doesn't need to be somebody dying either. Like I used the example a while back of
injury.
Yeah, like singers and stuff, they'll get like granulomas or whatever the hell on their vocal cords, and they won't be able to talk for 2 years. Now, not only does that prevent them from making money as a voice actor or a singer or whatever, but also, if you've got a game coming out, what do? You use the example of Nathan Fillion.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nathan Fillion was
Nothing wrong with him. He was just busy.
He was busy, so he couldn't voice his character in Destiny 2 when an expansion came out. So they just killed off his character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it'll be up to the actors and actresses whether they allow this or not. But you know, why not allow that tool? It's to me, this seems like a win. I get that people are pissed that they weren't consulted, and I get that some people are going to be squeezed out by this to some degree, but they're going to get squeezed harder by things like Nvidia ACE, which we'll transition to talking about.
Yeah, because both Ubisoft and Tencent have both said that they're going to be using this new tool in future versions of their projects. So
yeah, the legitimate one, and then so where you really start to get people squeezed out of voice acting is with things like Nvidia ACE, and there's this technology has existed for quite a while where you just generate an AI voice out of thin air. I mean, there's already YouTube videos that I see that people are just using the built-in fucking Mac OS voice narrator.
Oh shit!
I've seen many, not of the like higher caliber channels, but I see it. You know, little explainers where they're clearly just using the built-in Mac OS voices,
TikToks and stuff like that.
Yeah, that kind of shit all over the place.
This guy thought that he could rip off this person here.
That voice fucking drives me insane.
The original one was so much better.
Yeah.
Why can't they just get GLaDOS to do it? Like, I mean, that's what
I just don't understand why they use that voice. There are decent voices.
Yeah. It's because it's recognizable.
Yeah, very much so. So, but so Nvidia, the ACE, the Avatar Cloud Engine, basically takes a whole bunch of tools, voice generation and voice recognition and ChatGPT and a whole bunch of other shit, and like puts them all in a single sort of tool suite so that you can generate NPCs and or avatars to, you know, customer service theoretically. I'm really curious if we can get access to it at some point about having a live two-way conversation with a D&D player, like creating a D&D player with NVIDIA ACE to because you're talking to them, right? Like they have voice recognition and everything else built into them. That's kind of the point. And they're backed by GPT. So you give them parameters for their personality and everything, and then they sort of go from there. That is going to squeeze actors and actresses out of video games far harder than anything that the voice actors guild is doing.
Yeah.
Separately, I'm super interested in the NVIDIA ACE stuff. It looks really fucking cool, and I cannot wait for like their tech demo of the little bar, the sushi bar or whatever it is, where the NPC is full on AI. Like there's no pre-scripted anything. You just chat with it.
Yeah,
is super cool, and I can't wait for the day when that's even if it's just like the main characters in a game that are run like that, like your follower or whatever. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That's going to be so cool.
Well, and the tool set will be good for those indie developers that are, you know, if it's their first game or something, but like, it'll help them.
I think that's probably where we're going to see a lot of usage at the beginning is not super indie games. Like maybe they'll have the chat part, like just the text version of a chat GPT thing in it. But I think in terms of like NPCs and whatnot, I think we're probably going to see a lot of like it being tested in more mid-range games.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that there will be tech demos that come out, a lot more tech demos.
Yeah.
I mean, we replaced chat and you barely even noticed.
Yep.
Well, that's crazy. Isn't it? I mean, if Sabotage Studios needed some voice work, I'd do that shit for free.
There you go. There you go.
But from that though, having played through like this past year, I mean, our game of the year was Sea of Stars.
Yep.
No voice acting. It had that classic like, you know, where you're reading the texts and all that stuff. And even Mario Wonder, there was some like minor Mario going like yippee yay, you know, but mostly you're reading just text from a box. And it's funny how much I miss that, you know, just that where the difference between their voice was just how the type sounded, you know, like
right.
Oh, it's a bigger guy.
Yeah, no, they did a great job with that, and also I'm biased on all this stuff. Like I want the best for people who are voice actors and actresses. Those men and women do a huge amount of work. They're very talented. I have the utmost respect for them. I also fucking hate voice acting in games. And the reason for that is because it means that any conceivable conversation you ever have with that NPC has to be pre-recorded.
Yeah.
Which means that it takes, like, even down to like, well, we're going to issue a patch and we'd like to change what this character says. Well, bring in the fucking voice actor again and re-record. It's garbage. It's a bad idea. I hate that video games have gone that route. However, using AI, that potentially goes away. So from a gamer perspective, I mean, I'd love this, especially if they can be done in such a way that the people who spent their time getting talented and everything else are still being compensated. That feels like a win to me. They have every reason and right to be pissed off about whatever they want, but to me, this seems like a win.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Like I'd be curious to see what the budget for Baldur's Gate 3 was and how much Larian had to fork out for voice acting.
Oh God, I can't even imagine, right? Because I'm sure they did mocap and everything as well.
Yeah.
And like it.
And like Baldur's Gate 3 was it's a great game and it's a great piece of work.
Yeah.
But holy crap, I'd be a little nervous to see that budget.
Yeah, and that was a game that even I said, like, at the time, they could have probably charged half the goddamn price and not done the voice acting. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it could have just been text. But the voice acting, I think it's good too.
Some people love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's going to work against AI, though, I think, in bringing up Baldur's Gate made me think of it, is there is oh my God, the vampire character whose name I never remember. Doesn't matter.
Therian.
Thank you. If he like straight up dies and you lose him and then you resurrect him at the guy, I'm terrible with names. Doesn't matter. The guy where you can resurrect things, the lich thing.
Yep.
When he pulls him back, the actor for the vampire, he ad-libbed that entire thing.
Right.
So that was something special that was added in. But then again, like, it's likely that a lot of principal actors, maybe like the principal characters in games, will probably still be the main voice actors, I think, for a good chunk of time going forward. It will be more secondary and NPCs that we see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree where that's likely. And also, again, that's where you're going to need a voice actor on staff.
Yes.
You're going to need someone who thinks of those things
Yes.
and knows to think of those things and spots the places where it doesn't make sense.
Well, and the thing is, even if it's something like that and they're like, no, let's do it this way, they can just record that actor and then change it to that other voice.
Right. Like having somebody, even if it's in a different voice, having somebody that can give the AI that clue to what it should sound like. I don't think this is a death sentence for the career of voice acting. I think it's probably going to change a little bit over time. And I also think it's going to be a few years before we're really there. We'll see.
Yep.
So let us know what you all think about AI voice acting and all that fun stuff. Yay, nay? Let us know down below.
Yeah.
Very curious because, we all have our own thoughts and feelings. I'm personally, as I say, I've always been kind of against it, just because it shoehorns you into it. So really curious about what people think.
Yeah. And as usual, I'm going to do this one because I missed last week. So
Go ahead.
As usual, like, subscribe, tell 3 or 4 friends, and we'll see you next week.
And on Wednesday.
Or next time.
We'll see you on Wednesday. Next time. I like that. Cheers.
Bye.